Allow me to introduce myself, the chairman of the Harbor and Shellfish Advisory Board, Andrew Lowell. I will confirm members of the board. Please say you're here when I identify you. Mr. Brace,
Aye.
Mr. Tom Sadlowski,
Here.
Mr. Dave Bossy,
Present.
Mr. Dan Pronk.
Affirmative.
Thank you. Anybody else joining us at this point, Mr. Brace?
No.
This open meeting of the Harbor and Shellfish Advisory Board is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth, given the outbreak of the novel coronavirus. The order, which you can find posted on the town's website, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting is convening by video conference via Zoom app as posted on the meeting agenda, identifying how the public may join. Please note this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other participants may be able to see you, and that take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body and are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The chair will introduce each speaker. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage with other members in discussion, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. For items with public comment, after the members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment as follows. The chair will first ask members of the public who wish to speak to identify themselves. And once the chair has a list of the public commentators, I will call on each by name and afford 3 minutes for any comments. Each vote taken at this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Harbor and Shellfish Advisory Board, January 4th, 2022. Do we have an approval of tonight's agenda? A motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made by Mr. Sadlowski. Is that a second by Mr. Bossy?
Twas.
All in favor, Mr. Brace?
Aye.
In favor, Mr. Pronk?
Yes.
The chair is in favor as well. Approval of draft meeting minutes of December 21st, 2022. Does anybody have any revisions to be made? State so now. There are no revisions to be made. I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes of December 21st, 2021.
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made by Mr. Brace to approve the minutes of December 21st, 2021, seconded by Mr. Bossy. All in favor, Mr. Sadlowski?
Aye.
Mr. Pronk?
Yes, sir.
The chair votes for approval as well. I've nothing to mention under Chairman's report. Marine Department report. Do we have any representation?
We do not, Mr. Chairman.
All right. I'd like to mention one item under Marine Department that I was notified by a commercial scalloper during some high tide events recently. The ramp was not closed, but then was closed a little later on in the day after the tides came in. This particular fisherman had hoped to get his boat out of the water during that time, and he was simply concerned and curious if some type of a program could be created by the Marine Department to reach out to commercial fishermen of a time and date that the ramp is going to be closed and unavailable to them, And he was also concerned about the same type of thing being done possibly by Natural Resources to inform by email or text or some other source of communication of when it's too cold to go scalloping, other than having to check for the flag. So these two items I would like the board to simply think about over the next 2 weeks. And Mr. Brace, if you'll remind us to have this on our agenda for the next meeting.
Okay, so
Boat ramp closure notification
okay,
to fishermen. And notification of temperature restrictions for commercial scallopers.
other than the flag,
Yes,
right?
I believe that's correct. If something is already in place with that, then I stand to be corrected.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Sidlowski, please.
I don't recall exactly the social media account that she used, but there was an announcement of the closing of the boat ramp before it was closed, like the day before. I had seen that it was going to be closed. So Sheila did do something to notify the public that the ramp was being closed.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I agree too. I remember seeing something about that too, so.
All right. Okay, well, maybe this particular fisherman simply needs to be linked in, and I'll let him know.
And Andy, as far as notification for the temperature, I mean, I generally text JC myself personally. You know, I don't know if he is common practice with that with other guys, but you know, if it's close, I usually text him, and he within a couple of minutes normally gets back to me. But you know, I don't know that.
I certainly understand that, but to simplify and streamline, whereas there are so few fishermen, even if there were 100 fishermen, it seems as though with today's communication skills, a simple general across the board text could be sent to all fishermen. So simply,
or maybe something even on social media. I don't know if the Natural Resource has a Facebook account, I believe. I think I'm linked.
If there were, say, a scallop seed stranding, they have a list of people that they text in a compound manner. So I'd like to discuss whether the same thing can be done for cold temperature issue.
I'm just thinking simplicity for everybody, you know.
Right. Well, we'll discuss it, at our next meeting, and
Sounds good.
whatever's simplest for the parties involved is simply all I want to see created.
Agreed.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Marine Department report? Or not seeing any. Natural Resources report? Tara could not join us tonight. Shall I read this letter into the minutes, Mr. Brace?
Yes.
From Tara Riley, our town biologist. Happy New Year. I just wanted to send a quick note to let you know that I will be unavailable for the meeting tonight, as everyone is just returning from holiday break. Unfortunately, there are not many updates since our last meeting on 12/21. We are composing the letter for the DMF mooring issue, which I will submit for review prior to the next meeting. As for Ted Lambrecht's hearing, my main concern is more with the hearing process, and that the damage has already been done to our policies and procedures for dealing with issues such as this. The fact that Harbor Shellfish Advisory Board and Natural Resources Department were undermined in this case, and that the Select Board has created a new precedent making it nearly impossible to deal with any other aquaculture issues on the water. Everyone else will be referencing the TED's timeline, the number of chances given, etc. I wish that the select board would give more consideration and support to the elected boards and departmental staff providing recommendations. That is it for now. Sincerely, Tara Riley.
Good for her.
And I agree. Thank you, Mr. Pronk.
Good for her.
You know, it's been my wish for many years now that our voice be heard, and obviously this comes up tomorrow night, and I believe our voice has been heard, but maybe not loud enough. So I will do my best to actively become a louder voice, along with the board being supportive behind me, which I have all due respect you all will be. So any discussion on this letter in particular, board members, if you wish?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Brace.
it might be a good idea if we reaffirmed our vote, to revoke. I don't think anyone's changed their minds, but
I agree.
I spoke with Mr. Carlson this afternoon because I wanted to get some questions answered. I think Mr. Bossy at a previous meeting had said he took offense that Mr. Lambrecht had put cages into the water with seed in them. And I wanted clarification from Jeff. I wanted to know if he knew how many cages were put into the water, because I know Mr. Lambrecht had said that, he still had 34 cages on land that were ready to go whenever he was allowed to do that. And I agree with Mr. Bossy. It's kind of low down that, he just went ahead and did that. And so I asked Jeff, was he not allowed to do that? And the answer was that he was supposed to be bringing his lease into order, complying with his lease. And so I thought that maybe gives him a bit of a gray area. Of complying with his lease, is getting his gear off the bottom and making his lease more adhere to the parameters of the lease. Ted may have interpreted it that it was okay for him to go ahead and put seed in. Now, I don't think that's correct, but and something that struck me about this when I got the text or the email from Erica about him, coming late to the meeting, this was 90 days that he was given. And it was stated, and I was at the meeting, it was stated that if there's just one cage left on the bottom by the 8th, you're not going to be made whole again. So Jeff said I guess at the meeting, Ted had said he'd been out on the water working on his lease, and that's why he was late. But geez, 90 days. And the selectmen were serious at that meeting. You could tell they were serious. Don't you think that, you would make sure that you'd be there on time? You wouldn't blow it off. You wouldn't show up and say, oh, geez, I was working. I'm sorry. You'd be there on time. You'd give up that. Plus, how could he have been working at, 6 o'clock at night or whatever? It's dark at 4 o'clock. So he probably wasn't. Just thought it was a lack of respect. And I just, anyway.
Peter, if I could just add, in addition to, there were 2 violations causing the destruction of oysters.
Right.
And which means somebody had to be babysitting, watching him to pick up on either one of these. And which means somebody now from Natural Resources has to be monitoring him constantly.
Right. And
I wouldn't buy his oysters, I gotta tell you. Not if he's getting destruction orders.
Jeff confirmed that improper handling or something like that. He's going to bring all that stuff up. But
okay.
Anyway,
how how many of you are willing and able to attend tomorrow night's meeting?
I'll be there.
I'm going to make the effort. I'm afraid I go off the handle. I agree with Tara. It's not just the select board with this case. There are other cases too, but they're shutting down natural resources ability to manage the harbors. There's no question about it.
Mr. Bossy, I would encourage you to go off the handle. So if your energy is needed, and our numbers in size of our board, the more that are able to attend, the larger voice we have. So
Okay.
I encourage you all, if you're able to make it. I will do my best to be there. And is this meeting link easily obtained, Mr. Brace? If you could simply forward it to my new email address, that could be handy for me.
And myself as well, if you could do that too.
Yeah. Erica said that TV is going to be sending me a link.
Okay.
So when I get that, I'll forward it to you guys.
Good. Thank you.
Peter, thank you for that.
I'm not, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Sadowski, please.
be careful. I'm not so sure that the links aren't individual for that meeting. Dave, have you seen that? You have to go in and apply for the link yourself to get linked into the meeting and not just watch it on YouTube.
No, I'll have to go. I have to go research that because it should be in their agenda. Whether
Yeah, you have to, but I think you have to apply. They just let you in, but you have to do something online to be able to speak at the meeting. I'm pretty sure that happened to me last time. I had to go in there, and then I had to put in my name, and then they had to accept me in the meeting. So take a look at what Peter gets and make sure it's not individual to him. That's all.
Good,
Peter, did you want to have a vote? Because I know we can vote on this because it is on the agenda. So do you want us to reaffirm our vote supporting a revocation of the lease?
Well,
let's move to that in old business to make that vote. Right
Just
now,
let
Mr. Brace.
as a former president once said, just let me say this about that. I'm going to ask Erica how I can make sure that we all get a link that allows all of us to talk.
Okay.
And then, yes, I think we should take a vote to reaffirm. However you want to do that, Andy.
Okay. All right. Well, underneath the proper agenda item is where we should make the vote. So we'll move forward. We're still in natural resources report. Okay. Any other comments from the board specific to natural resources report? Not seeing or hearing any public comment on marine and natural resources. Not seeing any. Yes?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Bossy.
Quick, I did find the link in the select board posting to apply to be able to speak. So I wanted to forward that around, but you commented you had a new email address. I'll send it to Peter and ask Peter to forward it, and then I'll get your new email address. Is that?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else? Natural resources report, board members? No public joined us at this point.
Well, Kona's here. He's just, okay.
That's fine. If he's
no. Let's define here, because where Kona is a lot different than we are. All right. Your background, Andy.
We're very glad Kona joins us as often as possible. Right. And if he has something to say, I'm sure he'll raise his hand.
Don't see the video link anywhere because he's in paradise.
I thought this was paradise.
Yeah. You see paradise, the snow outside, right?
Yeah.
All right, man. Old business preparations for the continuation of Ted Lambrecht's oyster lease revocation. Public hearing is tomorrow, January 5th, 2022, at the Select Board meeting. Simply moving our previous discussion forward to this agenda item, I will be more than glad to entertain a motion to have a confirming vote on the revocation of Mr. Lambrecht's oyster lease.
I'll
Somebody
make
made
such a
the-
motion.
Okay, so we have a motion from Mr. Bossy to reconfirm our previous vote on the revocation of Mr. Lambrecht's oyster lease. Do we have a second?
Mr. Sadlowski seconds.
Mr. Sadlowski has seconded the motion. All in favor, Mr. Brace?
Aye.
Mr. Pronk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well, a unanimous vote of 5. Are there any other board members that have joined?
No.
Okay, this vote is final. Any other comments? Any other discussion on this agenda item, Mr. Lambrecht's oyster lease? I think everybody's made themselves clear. The vote confirms that we all feel the same, if not even worse, about this. So, board members, all I ask is prepare yourself and do your best to join the meeting tomorrow evening.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Brace?
so I guess I'll have to ask Erica about this as well, but if we have a quorum at that meeting, I believe you'll have to call the board to order.
That's
But
fine.
But I don't know if you can do that because we haven't posted that meeting.
We won't have a discussion between us. So I think Erica will tell you that's not necessary because we won't be discussing anything between the board members.
Okay. All right.
And in lieu of Mr. Bossy being correct, certainly tomorrow Erica can confirm or not confirm that, and hopefully if some other procedure is needed, I will get in touch with Erica also to do the best we can possible so that we all may be able to participate in this discussion. Any other comments, discussion? Not seeing any. Excessive sand and scallops dredging plan. Haven't heard anything from Natural Resources on this. I don't have any new news. I think the discussion we had at the last meeting with Ms. Longacre from Coastal Resiliency Advisory Committee, her suggestion was that we should be talking with Vince Murphy about our dredging ideas and how our dredging ideas, of course, as you all know, have to do with shellfish bed improvement, water circulation, and also navigation. And to team up with that, spoils being used for coastal resiliency. We should simply be in contact with Mr. Murphy, maybe have him at a future meeting, and to let him know how this dredging could be what I'm calling a fourfold positive move for the town of Nantucket to move forward with. So I will see if we can either get him to join the meeting or get him to give us an opinion on this. I'll try to reach out to him in the next 2 weeks. Comments, questions from the board? Not seeing or hearing any. We'll move to health of the harbors, excessive lawn fertilizer use, discussion, new information. So, at our last meeting, we had a member of the public attend the meeting, Hillary Hedges Rayport. She sent out some information. Town of Nantucket Board of Health Regulations, Local Regulation 75.00, the content and application of fertilizer for use on Nantucket. Did everybody get this? Mr.
I believe
Bosky?
so.
I believe a couple of you may have made comments back. Mr. Brace and I made the agenda for this meeting 3 weeks ago, so this issue could not be on our agenda tonight. I'd like everybody to look over this information, come up with some opinions of your own to discuss, because it will be an agenda item at our next meeting of January 18th. So there's really a lot of overlapping communication that ought to take place. It sounds to me like about 9 years ago, the Health Department and the Natural Resources Department voted to move forward with some stricter regulations, if not banning fertilizer. And the next step was to be on the agenda with the Planning and Economic Development Commission. And in the 9 to 10 years since then, it has not been on their agenda. So to exercise our voice louder as a board that is concerned about the health of the harbor, I believe that this is parallel to our concerns. I'd like to have it on our agenda. I'd like to have discussion and see how the board feels during the proper agenda time, and how we should move forward with this. Mr. Sidlowski.
Peter and Andy, as you go through the agenda, Ms. Rayport also was bringing up her article, which has to do with the NP and EDC makeup and the voting. And so as you write the agenda item, you may choose to put that on as a discussion item. So if we decide we want to support it or not, or decide we can or cannot, we can discuss it. I think otherwise we're only discussing fertilizer. So if you want to discuss her article, put it on the agenda item and invite her in to talk about the article.
I agree completely. And because there could be separate opinions in either direction. Obviously, the way the NP and EDC is made up may not be quite considered so much a Harbor Shellfish Advisory Board item, so, but the fertilizer is hot on our radar, to say the least, and so let's see how these two things either work together or not. And I really want to hear from the board honest opinions on this. So look it over and be prepared for our next meeting. I believe the Finance Committee reviews her article on January 10th. Whether they'll be voting on that article, I don't know. But it is something she's looking for support on. As individual citizens of the town of Nantucket, you're all welcome to move in a direction in your own manner on this as well. Any other comments on fertilizer use?
You know where I stand, Andy, after what I witnessed this summer that morning.
Yeah.
So.
Well, there's a lot of opinion out there that fertilizer has no negative effects on the harbor at all. So if there's, any obvious proof to help folks with the acknowledgement of it being a problem, let's try to get that information forward. In the fewer words, the better, to help folks who seem to refuse to understand. There seems to be some information sharing that may need to be promoted. That being said, I really like to lean on Mr. Sidlowski and Mr. Bossi for your research expertise in coming up with some wording and some information that that touches to the point. Board members, any more comments, questions on fertilizer use? Not seeing or hearing any. FDA, shellfish taking, prohibition in mooring fields. Ms. Riley touched on that a bit in her letter. It's hot on their radar to try to get these areas open or at least not closed so easily because of simple moorings nearby, and I applaud her for her work in that area. Comments or questions from the board? Not seeing or hearing any. Water quality testing update, boat holding tank, dye tablet distribution. Not having any representation. If anybody has any information on any new news in water quality testing, bring forth now. Not seeing or hearing any new business. Joe Manella's fertilizer ban article. Do we have any discussion on that tonight?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Brace.
I think someone, I don't mind talking to her, but someone needs to impress upon Tara to talk to Joe to have him be far less casual than he was at the meeting. He came at us, I'm just here, if you guys have any questions, this is something that he made himself out to be, very passionate about. He wants to do something about it. And I was just sitting there thinking, okay, if I'm at town meeting and I'm listening to this guy, he wasn't very articulate, and he didn't know how to pronounce the algae that he was talking about. He kept saying ligbia and not lingbia. And I just think that someone needs to tell Tara to tell him that he needs to know this issue inside and out. He needs to know how this stuff is formed and why it's there. And he has to have all his facts. And it's great that he's passionate about it and that he sees it every day and he wants to do something about it, but he has to back it up with information. And I didn't feel that when he was talking to us.
All right, Mr. Brace, I was not in attendance at that meeting. Maybe you and I can get together, or actually, I guess I ought to just download the meeting on YouTube and see it for myself. I'm a little reluctant just to, is it Tara's job to get Joe better informed and be a speech writer, so to speak, for him, or help him with his speech. Maybe Joe ought to implement somebody to be the spokesperson for this.
Excuse me.
All right.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, please, Mr. Brace.
Tara doesn't have to be a speechwriter, and it's not her job to do any of this. It's just, Joe's gonna he's going to try and distance himself from the Natural Resources Department by saying that he's a citizen, but everybody knows he's a tech at the hatchery. So he should, he should talk the talk, he should know what he's talking about. And so I would ask Tara to just, help him understand it better. That's all I'm saying,
Okay. All right.
make sure that he has his facts and, at town meeting, people who are, I don't know what the word is, underdog, or, he's not a scientist, he's just a tech. And, it'll carry more weight with the average guy, the everyman. If here comes this guy who's from the community, who grew up here, who's feeling this way, his dad, Phil Manella, is a developer. So here's a developer's son saying, let's not develop so much by fertilizing lawns. And, he can be the goofy lab tech if he wants to be, but he still needs to know what he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
He can't just be passionate and say, let's get rid of the ugly, bad fertilizer, because he's got to have the data. And anyway.
Peter, Mr. Brace, I understand completely where you're coming from. You have spoken at public meetings and town meeting yourself many times, as I have, and as you know, it doesn't come natural to some of us.
Right.
It takes some practice. It takes writing and rewriting your speech to be effective and get across to the public quickly and clearly. So, I mean, I'm more than willing to sit down with Mr. Manella, work on this. There's plenty of time, but the sooner the better. And because our focus as the Harbor Shellfish Advisory Board is to be able to see this move forward with a positive recommendation from the ground up. So thank you, Mr. Brace, for bringing this up, and I will personally reach out. So do my best to get Mr. Manella on the right path and get him in contact with people that can strengthen his voice and his movement.
Okay.
Board members, any other discussion? Moving forward in new business, Coastal Resiliency Advisory Board update. Do you have anything, Mr. Brace?
The only update is that the select board meet on January 12th. And it is anticipated that they will adopt the CRP. They didn't at the last meeting, which was December 2nd. Let's see, December 2nd or December 1st, I can't remember which. And we were all, the crack committee was, quite taken aback that they didn't adopt it, that they were saying, okay, we've got 6 weeks, let's whatever. So Vince is telling us that they're going to adopt it. So our committee will be in attendance. That's about all I got, because we haven't met since before Christmas, and our next meeting is January 11th.
Okay, so our next meeting is January 18th.
Right.
So January 12th, can you please repeat, Mr. Brace, and confirm what the select board meeting, what they will be adopting?
The coastal resilience plan.
So the plan is complete?
Yes, it's been complete for a while, and they've had it for a while. The reason that we were upset was that, the tide isn't going out, it's coming in. We don't have any time to wait. And it sends a very bad message to the citizens of Nantucket by saying, hey, we need to take some time and look at this.
All right.
That's all.
Okay. Simply to confirm and clarify, do you have a link that you can share uh, on where the coastal resilience plan can be found?
Sure.
I know I've asked you this in the past, and you've already revealed it. I simply would like you to reconfirm that. If you can do it, this evening while we're in public hearing, that would be great. If not, if you can send it out at least to,
I'll send it to you guys tomorrow.
Thank you, Mr. Brace. Public questions or comments? Not seeing or hearing any. Recap items for next meeting. As Mr. Sidlowski suggested, we will separate our agenda items between the NP and EDC article of Ms. Rayport and the Town of Nantucket Board of Health regulations on the application of fertilizer. Any other items the board would like to discuss at the next meeting? You've got till next Friday to inform us of what you'd like on the agenda.
In terms of recap, Andy, boat ramp closure,
Yeah.
notice to fishermen and notification to fishermen, scalpers, other than the red flag when the day is closed because of weather.
Yes, and like I said, I probably best to see exactly what is in place now before just jumping to the conclusion that only the red flag is what is used. So I don't want to put anything on here not being aware of any other types of communication that are already in place. So I'll reach out to Marine Department and also our Shellfish warden about that.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Sidlowski, please.
just so you know, the harbor master posted the closing of the gate on both Instagram and Twitter. So that's where it was. Might have been some other places. I didn't see it on Facebook, but it was on Instagram and Twitter. So if you follow them on Instagram or follow them on Twitter, you'll get notified of those things.
Okay. This particular fisherman who brought this to my attention did so actually through a comment on Facebook. So maybe Facebook needs to be added to it. I don't know. To me, Facebook, Twitter, if you're not out there or if it's not vibrating in your pocket that a new notice is out there, for me, the best way to reach out is a phone call or text. Really, text is the best way. I'm not going to catch anything on Twitter. So at this point, there's just too many media outlets out there, but that's just me. We'll think about this some more over the next week and a half and see if some more communication avenues could be applied here. Thank you, Mr. Sidlowski.
And Mr. Chairman, Ms. Andrews just joined the meeting.
All right. Good evening, Ms. Andrews. We're actually just about ready to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Oh, sorry about that.
Well, that's quite all right.
It was a little confusing because I think that the project I was interested in was postponed yet again, but I didn't hear the actual motion that said okay, so I had to, you know. Anyway, sorry, once again missed the discussion.
That's quite all right. We had a quorum, and if you're able to attend tomorrow night's select board meeting on the revocation of Mr. Lambrecht's oyster lease, I'm hoping as many board members as possible can be there. Did you receive the letter from Ms. Riley?
I did.
Okay, so look over that letter. She has some strong opinions in there that the rest of the board has agreed with. We actually took a vote tonight, which was unanimous, to reconfirm our stance on this issue. We agree 100% with Ms. Riley's letter tonight, and so our feelings, I believe it's the feelings across the board are that our voice needs to be heard, and the more of us that can attend that meeting, the stronger our board looks. So,
Okay, my only question, Mr. Chairman, this is Ginger. My only question is whether if we come with a quorum that there might be some.
okay, we've addressed this. We've addressed this, Ms. Andrews. We'll find out from Erica tomorrow. And we will not be conducting SHAB business between board members, but we'll have that worked out tomorrow through Erica Mooney, we're hoping. So,
Okay.
I don't believe that any type of issue like that should discourage board members from attending a select board meeting. So that would only lessen our effect where our effect is needed the most.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you for bringing that up.
Okay.
All right. If there's nothing else, Ms. Andrews, I'd prefer not to recap our entire meeting, so you can certainly look it over on YouTube and
Okay.
and be up to speed for sure. So if there's nothing
Okay,
else,
thank you. Again, my apologies.
please, no apology needed. We're glad you're here. If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll make that
So
motion.
moved.
All right, Mr. Bossy has made the motion to adjourn. I'll take Mr. Brace's movement as a second. All in favor, Mr. Sidlowski,
Aye.
Mr. Pronk,
Yes, sir.
Ms. Andrews.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. This meeting of the Harbor Shellfish Advisory Board is adjourned. I'd just like to remind you our next meeting is January 18th and then February 1st. Hope everybody had a wonderful holiday and hope the new year treats us all well.